Hello dear viewer, could I interest you in Bug? There's nothing better than going back to a game you love, and genuinely Bug Fables, The Everlasting Sapling gives me that same feeling. Despite the fact that I'm a jaded YouTuber and avid video game fan who can't find anything likable about newer releases, this game was practically love at first sight. Bug Fables is a video game released in late 2019 by indie developer Moonsprout Games. The title was clearly inspired by the first two Paper Mario games, but that doesn't mean that the game is devoid of any originality. Far from it. While it's easy to consider Bug Fables a copy of Source to Mario, it becomes more than that once you start playing it. Even so, I don't want to get into that just yet. All you need to know is that it's a good game. It's a game that's engaging. It's a game that saw critical acclaim. It's a game that perfects the genre. But what genre would that be, and why do so many people consider this game good? After all, it takes a lot of inspiration from a game that takes its inspiration from other games, and so on. In order to talk about how this game perfects its genre, I like to take a step back and instead look at the past to see exactly how I could categorize it. I also thought it'd be interesting to trace back to the origins of what this title was inspired by, as the evolution of those games really shaped what Bug Fables would become. Though if you already know where this is going somehow, there's timestamps to skip wherever you want. A simple but vague answer to what type of game Bug Fables is would be that it's an RPG. Unfortunately, that answer is extremely broad. You're given a role within a setting, you play, and it's a game. It's weird that I can put Final Fantasy VII, The Witcher III, and Stardew Valley in the same bin and label them all equally as RPGs. In order to give Bug Fables a definitive, unique categorization, we need to go deeper. Starting with Dragon Quest. It's a game franchise that's been around longer than I have, and has had a die-hard fan base in Japan since its conception. Hell, even now the release dates of Dragon Quest games had to be set on weekends, otherwise people would take the day off work and skip school just to buy and play the new title. Needless to say, it was a hit. This video game also popularized many staple mechanics now found in most RPGs to this day. However, despite the first installment in the series reaching over 2 million copies sold in Japan, it didn't see the same success in North America, and it seemed to stay that way for a while. I mean, I didn't see a lot of Americans pop the fuck off when Hero was brought into Super Smash Bros. Now there's a problem. Japan has this really cool game series that has all these great gameplay mechanics for turn-based RPGs, and yet very few groups outside of Japan want anything to do with it. Surely there's a video game that would bridge this gap. If JRPGs are the bread and butter, then Super Mario RPG is the meat. What the fuck am I talking about? I should not be writing this script at 2 AM. This game was many Westerners' first experience with a traditional JRPG. You got the turn-based mechanics, items, numbers, everything that JRPGs have, but with a new coat of paint. Mario Paint. Wait, don't eat that. Just because it was a JRPG, doesn't mean that they didn't include Mario-esque gameplay. This came in the form of isometric platforming. Yeah, that's all I got. Yet, the most important thing to stem from this game had to be action commands, which made battles more engaging. Press a button at a certain time during an attack and boom, you do more damage. This damage can change depending on how precisely timed the button input is, with more precise timing being awarded more damage. Same applies on defense, where if you press a button at the right time when attacked, you negate some damage. A simple game mechanic such as this was a much needed change of pace to the continuous use of scroll through menu, select action, watch as the action is performed. Congratulations, this is the rest of the game. Isn't this fun? It ensures that each battle is more than just rapidly pressing a button to get it over and done with, creating another thing that players have to juggle, their own mechanical skill. Sure, you might be able to select a strong move to perform, but can you get the damage bonus out of it by timing your button presses? If you're at low health, you can use an item or heal, or you can risk getting an extra attack in and relying on blocking to stay alive. Though, while this aspect of the game is great, it isn't without its shortcomings. Super Mario RPG does have a problem in the sense that it straight up doesn't give any prompts for action commands. Like, yeah, they do say you can do extra damage by timing button presses on attacks, But when exactly am I supposed to time that button press? The perfect timing to get extra damage is always either really intuitive or a complete shot in the dark. With how ambiguous some of these button presses are, having a battle mechanic guide for this game is practically a must if you want to learn every character's unique timed action commands. Not only that, there isn't much in ways of tailoring the playable characters in ways that you want to play. Each character pretty much has their own set roles. Princess Peach is obviously suited to be a healer with her multi-target healing and revival abilities, and Geno excels offensively with a skill that doubles his attack along with his slew of offensive spells. I get that this game is meant to help Western audiences get into JRPGs, and it helps that these roles are easily spelled out to newer players. However, I don't give a shit about those guys. Why isn't this game pandering to me in the current year? So cool, Nintendo and Square Enix make a really good RPG using the Mario IP, which introduces a lot of people to JRPGs, but they've also created more problems regarding the game's core mechanics as well as limited player customization. If only there was a video game that used the same IP that released on August 11, 2000 that fixed the exact problems I had mentioned. Paper fucking Mario. What's there to say? Made for the Nintendo 64 by Intelligent Systems, it simplified JRPG game mechanics so that even a child could understand it. Well, if they knew basic math and reading comprehension. And by God, they gave every action command a button prompt. They took a side dish from the previous game and made it the main entree, and it worked. This is like the second food metaphor I've made in this fucking video. This means that with every attack, you'll know what you need to press, and it goes further than just having a single button press. Some actions may require the use of multiple buttons, or even the use of the analog stick, but the main purpose of these action commands stay the same. Pull off the prompt, then you're rewarded with damage. Fail it, and you're punished with either weak or no damage at all. It's a clean evolution from its predecessors' prompts. Not only does Paper Mario make action commands more viable, it also brings on a plethora of changes, with lower damage numbers all across the board. Don't fuck with us Paper Mario fans, we can't count past the double digits. While it could be considered a regressive change mechanically from Super Mario RPG, I feel like lower numbers are a lot more digestible and add weight to every attack. In many traditional JRPGs, many attacks can go into the hundreds, even thousands, and personally, they all start to no longer mean anything unless one of those numbers is significantly larger than the other ones. Not only that, it makes it harder to calculate how much damage you need to do in order to take down a boss or a certain enemy. Compare that to Paper Mario where anything that deals 10 damage is either rare or late game. HP is either under 10 for most normal enemies, and for bosses, they never go above triple digits at all. Blocking also does the same as it does in Mario RPG, but instead of negating a fraction of the damage, it blocks only 1 point of damage. While it doesn't sound like much, it can save Mario in a pinch. With much more manageable numbers, it makes it easier to figure out what strategy needs to be implemented without busting out the whiteboard. I'm more of an Excel person myself when it comes to that. Not only that, the game added badges. Now these were a game changer. Remember how I whined about Super Mario RPG not having much in terms of character customization? Badges change all of that. These items are simple to understand and make every playthrough of the game that much more personalized. Equipping badges makes it so that you gain their effect, but you can only have a certain amount on you at a time, which can be increased with each level up. There are so many different badges that can tweak each player's preferred playstyle. Save up badge points to equip badges that straight up boost Mario or their partner's attack and defense. Use badges to allow you to use more skills, or even access more skills. It made for such a great system that allowed for player freedom. Overall, Paper Mario saw massive success and was highly reviewed among casual players and critics alike. And this game was so good, they made it twice, with a few changes. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. This game raised me. Fuck you, Mom. Sorry, Mom, I love you. But this had to be one of the first ever video games that I played, and by God does it deliver on all fronts. Nearly everything from this game had been brought over with tweaks and changes where need be to make playing this title even better than the last. It's no wonder there's only about 40 plus video essays that generally talk about the same parts of the game. Did I care? No, I watched nearly every one of them to further my descent into madness. Is this a good game? Yes. Does it mean that it doesn't have its own collection of problems? Maybe. Sorta. Yeah. I mean, these problems are probably very niche and only pertain to me. I played this game not too long ago, and was it always this easy? None of the fights really had any difficulty to them since I knew the perfect timing for each action command, and had a good idea of when to block and super guard. Remember how blocking in the first game helped negate a single point of damage? It was balanced. Sure, you could reduce damage, but towards the end of the game, you couldn't completely invalidate an enemy's attack. Not so in Thousand Year Door. Normally, this attack is supposed to do 30 damage unguarded. 3 damage every time it wasn't blocked over the course of 10 hits. In addition to normal guarding, there's super guarding, which negates all damage and reflects 1 point of damage back to the enemy. Of course, the timing for super guarding is stricter, but the benefits of pulling it off vastly outweighs those of the normal guard. Being able to negate all damage is extremely broken, and when your only other option for defense is reducing damage by 1, then there isn't much choice in which guard players will pick. I guess the normal block is serviceable in the beginning of the game when enemies only deal 1 to 2 damage, but it becomes negligible when they start dealing much more as the player progresses. This can completely change how the game is played. Rather than relying on both a mix of strategy and mechanical skill, which I feel was the main purpose of adding action commands, it makes people who play the game end up with the latter. There isn't a reason to switch up builds and badges and form new strategies using partners when you could brute force the entire game by abusing super guards. But the game was still good, so it didn't really matter in the short term. Then Intelligent Systems decided to deviate from the traditional Mario format by completely doing away with the turn-based style and going solely to platforming. Then they brought it back, but nobody liked it that time. Then they tried to make it better, and now we're here to present day. This severe drought of classic Paper Mario gameplay left fans ravenous, wanting more of what IS did in regards to the first 2 games. And from the looks of it, it didn't seem like those fans would be getting anything anytime soon. Until indie devs said fuck it, we'll make it ourselves, and thus Bug Fables: The Everlasting Sapling was created. So, after a long-winded explanation of the RPG history specifically related to this title, it's safe to say that Bug Fables is the Dark Souls of Paper Mario. Bug Fables is a Paper Mario-like. It looks like a Paper Mario game, it plays like a Paper Mario game, it is directly inspired by the Paper Mario series. This is half of the video right here, isn't it? Watch out, losers, this isn't your granny's Paper Mario anymore. This is Bug Fables, where everything you think and do matters. I mean, for the most part. And I'm talking about like gameplay in battles, not like story-wise, so yeah. If Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door was a direct improvement on Paper Mario for the Nintendo 64, then Bug Fables is a direct improvement on Thousand Year Door. Take everything I complained about when I was talking about TTYD, and get it out of here because it's all gone. Strategy? It's there. Less broken blocking? It's back. Badges? Do I even need a fucking answer, dude? The battle mechanics that were nearly entirely lifted from the first 2 Paper Mario games has been honed to a fine edge, creating this extremely fun battle system that not only challenges the player's critical thinking skills, but also puts players' ability to press buttons certain ways to the test. Visually, the game isn't as nice looking as Paper Mario, but it never had to be. Not many indie games could deliver the same amount of polish that Nintendo puts out since they're not a multi-million-dollar company with years of success on their belt. I want to comb through the gameplay and possibly even take a look at the story a little. But first, let's start with... See this? This is what makes the game a massive improvement over Paper Mario. As I harped on before, Nintendo's Paper Mario series tends to be really easy in my eyes. Never have I once found myself in a tight spot outside of scripted events. Even when I was 7, I was able to breeze through most encounters using the aforementioned Super Guard religiously. I didn't need to think at all when playing the game, and honestly, it felt more like a power fantasy going through the whole thing. When Bug Fables presented me a hard mode as soon as the game started, I turned that shit on, and then immediately faced the consequences of my actions. The game played regularly, still provided a bit of challenge, but I feel like it really shines with the introduction of hard mode. Enemies have more health, defense, and attack stats, multi-hit moves might have additional attacks, and some enemies get new attacks, While this seems to make the game only harder, there are added bonuses for the player outside of battle, such as gaining more experience, more currency to spend upon successful battles, and unique badges that are rewarded after beating bosses in hard mode. I won't lie, hard mode kicked my ass when I went through it for the first time. Not knowing enemies' attack patterns in tandem with the increased stats really delivered a 1-2 punch straight to my fucking forehead. Holy shit, did I die over and over again. Turns out, blocking is a really important tool in this game, and not knowing the right time to pull off a block can be devastating. Super guarding from Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door makes a return, but instead of blocking all damage and delivering a counterattack, it instead blocks an extra point of damage. But my god, is that extra 1 point helpful. Not only is there blocking, there's also switching up team formations and passing on turns to other bugs. Based on a bug's position, there's a number of different things that affect them. Towards the start of the game, the only effect given is that the bug in the front deals 1 extra damage and is more likely to be attacked, while the one in the back is less likely to be attacked. But this can be expanded upon later in the game. You can have the bug in the back have extra defense, have the bug in the front have extra defense as well as the extra attack, and so on. But that's only strategy and team formation. There's also another option known as turn relay, where bugs are able to give their turn to other bugs. This can be useful in multiple ways. Maybe there's an enemy that only a certain bug can hit. Maybe a bug needs to make use of 2 skills in 1 turn. There's a lot of different ways to make use of this simple mechanic, which adds to the strategy needed in every fight. Not only are fights harder, but more mechanical skill is needed to be successful on all fronts. Most builds practically require perfectly timed blocking in order to succeed, and nearly every build hangs in the balance of being able to block properly. I feel like this game has the best balance between action commands and strategy out of all the other games it's inspired by. It isn't even boss fights that gave me the most trouble, but that doesn't mean we can't downplay how difficult they were for me for the first time around. Even simpler enemies that players can walk into through exploration can easily sweep if given the right opportunity. This meant every fight required preparation, bosses especially. I needed to use every tool available to me in order to stand a fighting chance against every boss, and constantly had to switch up my team's build to tailor to each boss's advantages. I felt like I used items in this game way more than any other game because of how much of a necessity they were in fights, rather than being a simple game addition. When I found myself in a situation where I was unable to use items, I nearly lost my shit, scrambling to adapt to this newfound info. Leveling up feels more impactful as well since you only get an extra 3 points in either health, team points, or medals. Health increases the amount of damage each bug can take. Team points are the points used to use skills, and medal points are used to equip medals. On level up, health is divided between each party member, which means that each character only gets a single point of extra health. Honestly, extra health feels like the least important thing to increase during my playthrough, as I decided to go for team points or medals for the most part, though I have to say I'm a lot more inclined to pick one over the other. These were present in the first 2 Paper Mario games, but unlike those two, there's more thinking required when using badges. In the Thousand Year Door, I found myself throwing on badges haphazardly without a care in the world. Some granted me skills that I used sometimes, while others gave me permanent buffs for as long as I equipped them. However, I never really found myself theory crafting the best badge sets because it didn't really matter. I had the Super Guard after all, so every battle was winnable. Sure, there were ways you can make different badge builds work in Paper Mario, but it felt less like a necessity and more of an extra way to get a little bit stronger. Compare that with what I had to endure in Bug Fables, and it's clear to see how much badges really matter. Throughout the game, most of my level up stats went into medal points because of how important they are towards toughing it through hard mode. Sure, Paper Mario had certain badge combinations that can steamroll through bosses, but at the same time, it wasn't necessary to do that. When playing hard mode in Bug Fables, I don't see how anyone can get through the game without strategizing their badge combos. So much of the game is reliant on building a customized team that is both viable and fits to whatever playstyle the player might want. It's just such a good improvement from the games it is inspired by. There's just so many ways to go about approaching combat. For example, there's a medal called Favorite One. Funnily enough, it's one of my favorites. Whoever holds this medal gets their defense lowered by 1. But in exchange, whenever they get hit, The other 2 party members gain a +1 power boost to their next attack. The badge itself seems fairly simple, but when stacked on top of other badges, it becomes something greater. For instance, the back support medal makes whoever's in the back of the formation get +1 defense, meaning if you put the bug who has a favorite 1 badge in the back, its main downside is completely negated. And add in the status relay medal, you can put the +1 power boost onto one team member and bump up their damage from +2 for their next attack. Give the same bug medals that give them health, skill points, and extra defense every time they do the do nothing command, and then have the enemies focus on them for the entire game, and then profit. Of course, this do nothing build is only one of the few medal builds a player can make. There are medal builds for whatever you want. Do you like using skills? Well, you have that. Do you want your team to have a wider array of skills? They also have that. There's even the infamous poison build, which most people who've played the game know about. Wow, I'm glad that you're playing the game exactly how you want to and not using the most obvious build that heavily relies on both items and perfect blocks. While this isn't directly tied to gameplay, this is still an important thing to note about this game, at least in my eyes. Never have I empathized with bugs this much since probably that one Bugs Life movie, and I don't even think it was that good. A story following bugs may not sound interesting, but it really wasn't even the story that caught my attention, rather the personality of the characters in said story. There's this idea that if a set of characters' personalities are strong enough, they can fit into any story. And that's exactly the type of feeling I get from V, Leaf, and Kabu, our main cast. Teaming up a stoic and chivalrous explorer, a money-hungry and selfish team member, and a blunt but polite anomaly generates enough intrigue for me to care about these characters. And it's not just about what this team is that helps further develop my love for them, but rather how they grow as people. Bugs. Learning selflessness, forgiveness, overcoming imposter syndrome, it's all there, and brought up in ways that feel really genuine and mature, which is surprising considering that the game looks the way that it does. This strong characterization doesn't only apply to the main protagonists, however. My feelings towards side characters, even ones that I initially didn't like all that much, soon grew on me as their characters developed in natural ways during the main story. Sure, the Paper Mario titles had serviceable characterization in some of the party members, but they were usually cut short after their chapter ended. I think because of the fact the first 2 Paper Mario games relied on this heavy usage of multiple partners, it became difficult to fully flesh out every single one of them. By having the main characters be reduced down to 3 rather than 6, Bug Fables is able to focus more on each bug's personality and most importantly how they interact with one another. This might be a gripe that only I have, but I absolutely despise when video games give such a varied cast of characters but don't give them any meaningful interactions with one another. It's supposed to be a story of a band of heroes, not an awkward 3-minute ride up an elevator, and thankfully, Bug Fables doesn't fall into that category. The gang of bugs the player controls constantly banter and converse with one another throughout the story, and even through observing their surroundings. It makes for a cast that the player can care about and slowly grow attached to. Once again, the developers of Bug Fables exceed expectations considering what the game is based on. Upon first glance, it would be easy to call Bug Fables a Paper Mario clone and leave it at that. But upon actually sitting down and playing through the whole game, it's clear to see how much the developers love the Paper Mario series, and wanted to improve and change up its formula to make a better gameplay experience. This can be seen through the game's hard mode, its sheer gameplay customization options, and even the game's story and characterization. It's clear to see that they put so much love and care into Bug Fables. All in all, Moonsprout Games did what many Paper Mario fans wanted. They wanted more Paper Mario. After Paper Mario's shift to more experimental gameplay, it left many fans of the first 2 titles in the dust, begging Nintendo to make a Paper Mario game akin to the 2 that they knew and loved. However, by developing Bug Fables, Moonsprout Games made a statement. Don't wait for someone else to make the game you want. Make it yourself. And that's exactly how they perfected the genre. To whoever made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for sticking to the end. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment if I had any information wrong, or if you just want to share your piece on this topic. And if you like this form of content, be sure to subscribe. I also have a Patreon where you can get access to assets that I use in my videos, sneak peeks on upcoming projects, and even a doodle of yourself if you really want to. Like, here's the people who paid for the doodle. They keep me alive. Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking now and leave. Bye.